Welcome to Podnutz Daily for August 5th, 2008. Okay, guys, first thing I want to talk about is a Dell power cord that gave us some trouble. Customer brought in an OptiPlex. It was an SX240 or SX270. It's like one of the newer OptiPlexes, and it was a small form factor one. It looks like a little square little thing. You know, picture like the Mac Mini, like times 3 or maybe 2 in size. And what allows it to be so small is the power supply is in the actual power adapter. It's not on the inside of the computer. Well, this power supply has 6 or 8 output prongs, and that you plug that into the back of the computer. Anyway, his computer wasn't on. This was after a power storm. He couldn't get his computer to turn on, so he wanted to know if it was the power supply or the motherboard. So we took the power supply, and I looked up online what the voltage out of those leads are on the power supply so I could test it with a voltmeter. And it seemed like the power when we tested the power supply, I took the voltmeter and we tested each lead as a power supply. We compared it to what it was supposed to be, and it was much less. In some cases, it was 0. We were only getting 2 volts on some of the outputs, so we assumed that the power supply was bad because you know that computer was probably going to need like 20, 30. No. What am I thinking? I'm thinking like maybe 20 volts DC. But now that I think about it, I bet it was AC, and I was testing for DC. I think I found out what was wrong with that problem, guys. I might have been testing for DC volts, and it might have needed AC volts. That might have been the problem. Anyway, we ordered a power jack, and it's bad. I mean, and when it came in, brand new power jack, power supply, hooked it up, and the computer still didn't go on. So wasn't the power supply. It was actually the motherboard, or it could have been both. We don't know yet. But I'm going to check that next time I go in. I might be checking for DC volts, and I should have been checking for AC. So that might have been the problem right there. Thank you for allowing me to talk and figure that out. Okay, we had an on-site job today where it was a compact desktop computer. When the customer turned it on, the fans would spin high speed, no video, and nothing happening besides that. Just the fans turn on, spin at high speed, like the lights go on the computer, but there's no picture on the monitor. Well, it had a video card in it. So my first thought was take that video card out and use the onboard graphics. Sometimes if you got a PCI card in there, it's like in a little crooked or something shorting out the PCI slot or your graphics slot, it could cause the motherboard to act funny. Well, we pulled that out, and still no go. So we took the computer back. And a couple other things you could try on this is, because it seems like it would be a bad motherboard if this happens. Usually when I have these kind of problems, it's a bad motherboard when you turn on the power and the fan just goes high speed and it doesn't even post. But I would pull out the RAM and swap out the RAM and try a different piece of RAM. Maybe if there's a modem, like a PCI modem and a PCI slot hooked up, pull the modem out. I've had computers come in that are doing that, and I pull the modem card out, and everything works fine. So you want to strip everything off the motherboard as much as you can and try to, by process of elimination, see if the motherboard is acting the same as you take each piece off. If you take all the pieces off and it's still doing it, then new motherboard, unless you see blown capacitor or something on there and you feel like you want to try to replace them. It's a little tough of a job, though. Another thing I've been using lately is Evernote, which is a great it's a great tool. There's a beta version, which is the web version of it, which I'm using, where you sign up for an account and you just, if you find something on a web page you like or whatever, you could just snippet that and just snip it into Evernote and put it in your little Evernote like site. And every time you want to check on your notes, you just go to Evernote and you can see all your notes. A cool feature that Evernote has is you can take a picture, like a graphic, and store that on your Evernote page. And because you want to keep it for a note for some reason or whatever, Evernote can do character recognition on graphics and see if there's any letters in it and tell you what's written inside the graphic. It's pretty cool. And I think it's free for the beta. It's in beta, so it's got to be free. It's Evernote, the web version of it, and I don't have the desktop versions of it. Okay, that's enough tech talk from me personally. We got a couple calls, and I want to read a couple emails. First, I want to announce that I'm still having the iPod Nano contest. I'm giving away my iPod Nano. If anybody wants to win it, here's what you got to do. Just by this Friday, your entry has to be done. By this Friday, you have to sign up somebody. You got to get somebody to subscribe to Podnutz or Podnutz Daily, either one. Somebody who would be interested in the show. Don't do it in a spammy kind of way where just you get like your dog, you sign up your dog or something like that. And then just email me when you do that. And email me your name and or your email address, whatever you want to do, just so I know that you did it. I'm going by the honor system here. I have no way of really knowing if you did it or not, but if everybody says they did it and I look at my subscriber stats and they're like 0, then I know. So going by the honor system. If you want to win the iPod Nano, do that. Now, I have a trivia question for anybody who wants 5 extra entries into the contest. You could increase your odds of winning if you answer this trivia question. Just email me the answer at Podnutz, mail@podnutzdaily.com. The answer to this trivia question, and I'll pick one at random to get the 5 extra bonus points. The question is, how many guests have there ever been on Podnutz? I need to know the number of guests that there has ever been on Podnutz podcast. Not Podnutz Daily. I'm talking about podnutz.com, the weekly show. Okay, now I'm going to play some messages that I received. First one is from Simon Zarafa, who has been a guest on Podnutz before, and he is a wonder in the forums. I responded to one of his forum posts, and I said, "Thanks, Simon. Great response as usual." And I added, "How the heck do you know so much?" Because no matter what you post in the forums, Simon has the answer. This guy is amazing. Here's his message.
Hi, good day, Steve. This is Simon Zarafa. I was, you were good enough to have me on one of your shows a little while ago, and I've been posting in the forums as well. Just listening to episodes like Podnutz Daily 49, and the listener that called in with the problem with the CD drives not functioning correctly. I noted he had changed the settings on the drive from cable select to master and slave, which is definitely a good idea. What he might find he also needs to do is change the cable. Cable select cables are often very different from standard IDE cables. If you look carefully, you may find there's actually notches or missing cables or missing wires from the cable. And the BIOS on that machine may be getting very confused now because you've got a cable select cable in use and when it needs a standard IDE cable. The other issue I found on some Dell machines, it's only happened once or twice, but the DVD or the CD drives fail to work correctly. And I found that if you can find the latest version of the Flash software, the Flash update for the drive, have a search around the net, see if you can find the Flash updater for the drive. Sometimes actually updating the code on the drive itself will sometimes resurrect them and get them working again. Bit of an outside chance, but worth trying. And for very strange booting issues, again, I've had this on some machines where things just didn't boot correctly for whatever reason, and I've tried all the usual fixes, replacing cables, etc., clearing the CMOS.